In April 1999, a man sat naked on the floor of a small empty room, unable to leave. As he finished eating some of the dog food he had left over, he sat down at a low table, as he had done every day, and began filling out postcards. He did not know that 30 million people were watching. Tomoaki Hamatsu was a 22-year-old comedian from Japan. He had grown up in a small town in Fukushima. He moved to Tokyo to pursue his passion. Tomoaki would spend his time in Tokyo signing up for any club or role where he would be brought to the spotlight. But after 2 years, he was still largely unknown. While reading the newspaper, he saw an ad. The details were vague, but a television production company was looking for someone with show business experience. That was it. Tomoaki showed up to the audition along with several others. They drew lots. He won. He was taken to a small apartment in Tokyo. A producer named Toshio Tsuchiya was waiting for him. Tsuchiya told him to remove his clothes. On a low table in the center of the room, there was a stack of magazines, a pen, and a pile of pre-stamped postcards. Hamatsu was to live in this apartment. No food, no clothes, no contact with the outside world. The only way he could acquire anything was by entering the mail-in sweepstakes he found in the magazines. He could leave when he had won 1 million yen worth of prizes. That was roughly $8,000. Tsuchiya told him one more thing. He would be filmed, but the footage would only contain the entertaining moments. The rest would be cut. The show was called Susunu Denpa Shonen. It had been running on Nippon television since January 1998, and it was known for putting people in extreme situations, hitchhiking across continents, surviving on desert islands, challenges designed to test human endurance. A Life in Prizes Hamatsu's segment was a new format, something its creator, Tsuchiya, had been developing for a while. The premise was unusual even by the show's standards, and it had a quality that set it apart from almost everything else on television at the time. His first day, he had no food, no entertainment, nothing. To prevent starvation, he would periodically be given crackers. His first win was a small bag of candy. He danced. The footage of Hamatsu dancing naked, alone, elated over a bag of jelly sweets, became one of the defining images of the show. Audiences loved it. Not because it was cruel, necessarily. Because it was human. He would start getting more wins, a bicycle, ladies' underwear, movie tickets, and car tires. But what he needed was food. Eventually, food would come. Dog food. For an extended period of months, he survived purely on tinned dog food. He had nothing to trim his hair or his nails. He had no one to talk to. He had a diary, which he wrote in every day, and which the production team periodically retrieved and published. It became a best-selling book, though Hamatsu did not know this. The show was being broadcast every week to an audience that, within months, had grown to over 15 million people. Here's what the audience saw. They saw a young man, naked and alone, filling out postcards. They saw him eat dog food with evident misery. They saw him talk to a stuffed toy he had won in a sweepstake, which he named Binasu, and which he treated as a companion, a teacher, a friend. They saw him cry. They saw him dance. They saw him lying on the floor, staring at the ceiling. The production team added sound effects to the broadcast, cued to moments of Hamatsu's suffering. The audience laughed. By the time the show became popular enough that fans started trying to work out the location of the apartment, journalists and paparazzi gathering outside the building. Staking it out, the production team made a decision. They moved him. Hamatsu was blindfolded, transported to a new apartment, and told that the change of address would bring him renewed luck with the sweepstakes. He accepted this. He had been in isolation for months. His capacity to question things had been worn down to almost nothing. He unpacked his won possessions into the new space and kept filling out postcards. After 335 days, Hamatsu won a bag of rice that took his total over 1 million yen. He had done it. Tsuchiya arrived and took him, blindfolded, somewhere for a celebratory meal, an amusement park, a day of freedom after nearly a year of confinement. And then Tsuchiya took him to another apartment. This one was in Seoul, South Korea. Hamatsu needed to win enough in sweepstakes to fund a flight home. The magazines were in Korean, a language Hamatsu did not read or speak. He would have to work out the entry forms by pattern recognition alone. According to the footage later used in the documentary The Contestant, Tsuchiya spent 3 hours convincing a reluctant and broken Hamatsu to continue. The edited broadcast made it look like he agreed immediately. His mental state had deteriorated to the point where leaving felt impossible, not because he was physically prevented, but because 15 months of isolation had done something to his sense of what was normal. He later described those days as the bottom of hell. He said that anger came out of every pore in his skin. He said that he had, on many occasions, wished he was dead. In South Korea, something changed. Hamatsu figured out how to game the sweepstakes system, identifying patterns in the Korean entry forms. He reached his goal for a flight home so quickly that the production team changed the target. Now he needed to win enough for a first-class ticket. He won that too. He was blindfolded again, and when the blindfold came off, he was in what looked like another small bare room. He sat down at the low table, as he had done 1,000 times before. He took off his clothes, as he had been conditioned to do, and then the walls fell down. The room was a set, built inside a television studio in Tokyo. The studio was full of hundreds of people who had followed his story for 15 months. They were on their feet, cheering, laughing. applauding a naked, disoriented, confused man who had no idea where he was or why any of this was happening. Hamatsu's bewildered face became one of the most replayed clips in Japanese television history. Over 30 million people had watched his journey. He was one of the most famous people in the country. He had not consented to any of it. He had been told at that first audition that very little footage would be broadcast. He had spent 15 months believing himself to be essentially unwatched, and every moment of it had been transmitted into the living rooms of 30 million strangers.